People often ask me, Ray, what's the secret to your success? How did you go from borrowing $4,000 from your dad after going broke in 1982 to building Bridgewater into a $160 billion fund? And they expect me to say something about work ethic or intelligence or connections or luck. But the truth is much simpler and much more profound. It's how I think. Not what I know, not who I know, but the mental models I use to process information, make decisions, and understand reality. See, most people think that success comes from having the right answers. But I learned early in my career that success comes from having the right questions, from having frameworks, mental models that help you navigate complexity, uncertainty, and change. A mental model is essentially a thinking tool. It's a framework for understanding how something works. It's a lens through which you see the world that helps you make better decisions. And over my 50-year career, I've developed 5 mental models that have been absolutely transformative, not just for investing, but for life. These are the thinking frameworks that separate billionaires from everyone else. Not intelligence, not education, but how we process reality. Today, I want to share these 5 mental models with you. They're the same frameworks I teach people at Bridgewater. The same frameworks I've used to navigate 8 major market crises. The same frameworks that turned my biggest failure into my greatest success. These aren't get-rich-quick schemes. They're not investment tips. They're ways of thinking that, if you internalize them, will transform how you see the world and how you make decisions. The 5 mental models: radical truth and radical transparency. See reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. The principles-based operating system, systematized decision-making. Believability-weighted decision-making. Not all opinions are equal. Pain plus reflection equals progress. Embrace failure as a teacher. Understand the machine. See everything as cause and effect systems. Let's dive in. The first mental model, and the foundation of everything else, is what I call radical truth and radical transparency. This is simple to state, but incredibly difficult to practice. You must be willing to see reality exactly as it is, not as you wish it to be. And you must be willing to share that reality openly, even when it's uncomfortable. Let me tell you why this matters so much. Most people live in a fog of self-deception. They tell themselves comforting lies. The market will come back. My business is doing fine. I'm a good investor. That failure wasn't really my fault. This self-deception is protection against pain, against the discomfort of facing hard truths, against the ego damage of admitting mistakes. But self-deception is also what prevents growth. If you can't see reality clearly, you can't respond to it effectively. You make decisions based on fantasy rather than fact. And eventually, reality asserts itself, usually painfully. My 1982 lesson. In 1982, I was absolutely certain that the economy was heading into a depression. I had done my analysis. I had my models. I went on TV and predicted economic catastrophe. I was so confident that I bet everything. My firm's capital, my reputation, my career, and I was completely wrong. The economy didn't collapse. It boomed. I lost everything. I had to borrow money from my dad to pay my bills. That failure taught me the most important lesson of my life. My biggest risk is being wrong and not knowing it. The problem wasn't that I made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. The problem was that I was so confident in my view that I didn't consider the possibility that I was wrong. I confused my opinions with reality. From that point forward, I adopted radical truth. I would seek out people who disagreed with me. I would stress test my ideas. I would look for evidence that contradicted my views. I would be transparent about my uncertainties and my mistakes. How to practice radical truth. Step 1. Separate what is true from what I want to be true. When you're facing a decision or analyzing a situation, ask yourself, am I seeing this clearly, or am I seeing what I want to see? Example, your investment is down 30%. Radical truth says, this investment has lost 30% of its value. I need to reassess whether my thesis was correct. Self-deception says, it's just a temporary setback. It'll come back. Step 2. Welcome disagreement. Most people avoid people who disagree with them. It's uncomfortable. It threatens the ego. But disagreement is a gift. It's an opportunity to discover where your thinking might be flawed. At Bridgewater, we have a culture where people are expected, required, actually, to challenge each other's thinking regardless of hierarchy. If you're in a meeting and you think someone's wrong, you have an obligation to say so, even if that person is me. This is uncomfortable. Humans naturally want agreement and harmony, but agreement is the enemy of truth. If everyone agrees, it usually means no one is thinking critically. Step 3. Be radically transparent. Don't hide your mistakes. Don't sugarcoat bad news. Don't pretend everything is fine when it's not. At Bridgewater, we record almost all meetings. We share those recordings across the organization. We have systems where people rate each other on competencies in real time during meetings. Everything is visible. Why? Because transparency forces accountability. It prevents the natural human tendency to hide mistakes, to spin narratives, to protect ego. When I make a mistake, I share it openly. I explain what I was thinking, where I went wrong, and what I learned. This does two things. It helps me learn, and it helps others learn from my mistakes. The resistance you'll face. Your ego will resist this. Society will resist this. People are uncomfortable with radical honesty. They'll accuse you of being harsh, negative, or too blunt. But here's the thing. Kindness is not the same as niceness. Being nice is avoiding uncomfortable truths to spare feelings. Being kind is telling someone the truth they need to hear, even when it's uncomfortable, because you care about their growth. Radical truth and radical transparency are acts of kindness. They're painful in the short term, but valuable in the long term. The payoff. When you commit to seeing reality as it is, you make better decisions. You avoid catastrophic errors. You learn faster. You build trust with others who value honesty. And over time, this compounds into extraordinary results. This is mental model number 1, the foundation of everything else. The second mental model is what I call the principles-based operating system. Here's the insight. Most people make decisions reactively. Something happens, they respond emotionally, they make a choice, and then they move on. They don't systematize their decision-making. But billionaires and successful organizations operate differently. They systematize decision-making through principles. What is a principle? A principle is a fundamental truth that serves as a foundation for decision-making. It's a rule that applies across many situations. For example, one of my principles is pain plus reflection equals progress. This isn't just relevant to investing. It's relevant to parenting, to relationships, to health, to everything. It's a universal truth that guides decisions across domains. Why principles matter? Without principles, every decision is made from scratch. You're constantly reinventing the wheel. You're relying on intuition, emotion, or whatever feels right in the moment. With principles, you have a decision-making operating system. You've already thought through what matters and what doesn't. You've captured lessons from past experiences, and you can apply that wisdom consistently. Think of it like software. Without principles, you're manually coding every action. With principles, you have algorithms that process inputs and generate outputs systematically. How I built my principles. After my 1982 failure, I started writing down principles. Every time I made a significant decision, good or bad, I would reflect on it and extract the principle. For example, after losing money on a bet where I was overconfident, I wrote, "Don't be overconfident. Your biggest risk is being wrong and not knowing it. Always seek out smart people who disagree with you." That became a principle. And now, whenever I'm making an important decision, I consult that principle. I literally ask myself, am I being overconfident? Have I sought out people who disagree? Over 40 plus years, I accumulated hundreds of principles. I organize them into categories: investment principles, management principles, life principles. I share them with colleagues. I refine them based on feedback. Eventually, I compiled them into my book Principles, which has sold millions of copies. But more importantly, they're embedded in Bridgewater's culture and decision-making systems. How to build your own principles. Step 1. Capture lessons from experience. After any significant success or failure, write down what you learned. What worked? What didn't? Why? Example, you made a bad hire. Write down, I rushed the hiring process because I was desperate to fill the role. Principle, never hire out of desperation. Take the time to find the right person. Step 2, generalize the lesson into a principle. Turn the specific lesson into a general rule that applies broadly. Example, take the time to find the right person becomes, in important decisions, patience beats speed. Prioritize quality over urgency. Step 3, test and refine the principle. As you encounter similar situations, apply the principle. Does it work? Does it need modification? Refine it based on new data. Step 4, systematize your principles. Organize your principles into categories. Create a document, your personal operating system. Consult it when making decisions. At Bridgewater, we've gone further. We've embedded principles into software. We have systems that prompt people to apply relevant principles based on the situation they're facing. We've literally algorithmized decision-making. The power of principles. Principles create consistency. You're not making different decisions in the same situations based on mood or emotion. You're applying systematic wisdom. Principles enable scale. You can't be involved in every decision in a growing organization. But if everyone operates from the same principles, they make decisions consistent with your values and wisdom even when you're not there. Principles compound. Each new experience adds to your library of principles. And over decades, you build an incredibly sophisticated decision-making system. An example in action, one of my investment principles is diversify appropriately. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, but also don't over-diversify to the point where you own everything and generate mediocre returns. This principle came from painful experience. In the early days, I sometimes concentrated too much, high risk, or diversified too much, low returns. Now, whenever I'm constructing a portfolio, I apply this principle. It guides asset allocation decisions systematically. No emotion, no guesswork, just applying the principle. This is mental model number 2. Build a principles-based operating system for your life and work. The third mental model is believability-weighted decision-making. Here's the problem most organizations face. They operate on the principle that everyone's opinion is equally valuable. Democracy, consensus, everyone gets a vote. But this is absurd. Not all opinions are created equal. Someone who has deep expertise and a track record of success in a domain has an opinion that's worth more than someone who's never worked in that domain. Yet most organizations ignore this. They have meetings where the junior analyst's opinion is weighted the same as the senior experts. Or worse, decisions are made by whoever is loudest or most politically skilled. This is insanity, and it leads to mediocre decisions. The believability-weighted approach. Instead, you should weight people's opinions by their believability in that specific domain. Believability is a function of 2 things. Track record. Have they been right about this type of thing in the past? Reasoning. Can they explain their thinking clearly and logically? If someone has both a strong track record and clear reasoning, their opinion should carry more weight. If someone has neither, their opinion should be noted but not heavily weighted. How this works in practice. At Bridgewater, we literally score people on believability in different domains. We have software that tracks it. For example, I might have high believability in macroeconomic forecasting and portfolio construction because I've done it successfully for 40 years. But I might have low believability in software engineering because I'm not a software engineer. So when we're making a portfolio decision, my opinion carries significant weight. But when we're making a software architecture decision, the engineer's opinions carry more weight than mine. This isn't ego-driven. It's reality-driven. We're trying to make the best decisions, not protect anyone's feelings. The mechanics. Here's how you implement this. Step 1. Identify domains of expertise. What are the key domains in your work? Investment analysis, management, sales, operations, etc. Step 2. Assess believability in each domain. For each person, evaluate. Do they have deep knowledge in this domain? Do they have a track record of success? Can they explain their reasoning clearly? Give them a believability score. We use 1 to 10 scale. Step 3. Weight opinions by believability. When making a decision, collect input from relevant people, but weight their opinions by believability. Example: you're deciding whether to enter a new market. You have person A, believability 9 in market analysis, says yes, gives detailed reasoning. Person B, believability 4 in market analysis, says no, vague reasoning. Person C, believability 8 in market analysis, says yes with conditions. You don't just average the opinions. You give person A and person C's views more weight than person B's. The counterintuitive insight. This actually makes junior people more powerful, not less. In a traditional hierarchy, decisions flow from seniority. The CEO's opinion always wins, even if they're wrong. In a believability-weighted system, if a junior person has high believability in a specific domain, maybe they're a technical expert, their opinion can carry more weight than the CEO's in that domain. This means the best ideas win, regardless of who proposes them. The challenges. This is hard to implement because egos resist it. Senior people don't like being told their opinion matters less in certain domains. It requires honest assessment. You have to be willing to admit where you're not an expert. It's uncomfortable. People are used to democracy or autocracy, not meritocracy of ideas. But if you can get past these challenges, the payoff is enormous. Better decisions, faster learning, and a culture where the best ideas win. How to apply this personally? Even if you're not running an organization, you can use this model. When seeking advice, weight it by the advisor's believability. Your friend who's never invested shouldn't have the same weight as Warren Buffett's advice, if you could get it. When making decisions, recognize your own believability. In areas where you have high believability, trust your judgment. In areas where you don't, defer to experts. This is mental model number 3. Not all opinions are equal. Weight by believability. The fourth mental model is one of the most important for personal growth. Pain plus reflection equals progress. Most people avoid pain. They see failure as something negative, something to hide, something shameful. But I've learned that pain, especially the pain of failure, is one of life's greatest teachers, if you handle it correctly. The formula is simple. Pain plus reflection equals progress. Pain alone doesn't teach you anything. If you just experience pain and move on, you haven't learned. You're likely to repeat the same mistakes. But pain plus reflection, pain plus asking, what can I learn from this? That's where growth happens. My 1982 lesson revisited. When I lost everything in 1982, I had 2 choices. Choice 1, give up. Decide investing is too hard. Move on to something else. Choice 2, reflect deeply on what went wrong and extract lessons. I chose reflection. I spent months analyzing my mistake. Not just what I got wrong, the prediction, but why I got it wrong, overconfidence, insufficient stress testing, ignoring contradictory evidence. That painful reflection led to fundamental changes in how I think and operate. I developed the practice of seeking out people who disagree with me. I built systems to stress test my ideas. I cultivated intellectual humility. I created principles to guide future decisions. The pain of 1982 became the foundation of everything I built afterward. Bridgewater success is built on lessons learned from that failure. The mechanism. Here's why this works. Pain gets your attention. When everything is going well, you're not motivated to reflect deeply. But when you fail, when you lose money, when something hurts, that gets your attention. Your brain is wired to pay attention to pain because it's a survival mechanism. Reflection extracts the lesson. Pain tells you something is wrong. Reflection tells you what to do differently. Without reflection, pain is just suffering. With reflection, pain becomes wisdom. Progress is the result. Armed with new understanding, you make better decisions going forward. You avoid similar mistakes. You improve systematically. How to practice this? Step 1. Don't avoid pain. When something goes wrong, a failure, a loss, a mistake, your natural instinct is to avoid thinking about it, to move on quickly, to distract yourself. Resist that instinct. Lean into the pain. Examine it. Step 2. Reflect systematically. Ask yourself, what exactly happened? What was I trying to achieve? Where did my thinking go wrong? What assumptions did I make that were incorrect? What principle can I extract from this? Write down your reflections. Don't just think about them, document them. Step 3. Extract the principle. Turn the lesson into a principle you can apply in the future. Example, you lost money on an investment because you didn't understand the business model well enough. Principle, never invest in something I don't understand. If I can't explain the business in simple terms, I shouldn't invest. Step 4. Apply the principle going forward. The next time you're in a similar situation, consult the principle. Has it saved you from repeating the mistake? If so, the pain has been converted into progress. The compound effect. The beautiful thing about this model is that it compounds. Each failure teaches you something. Over a career, hundreds of failures become hundreds of lessons. And those lessons accumulate into wisdom. I'm not successful because I never fail. I'm successful because I've failed more than most people, reflected on those failures deeply, and converted them into principles that guide better decisions. The attitude shift. This mental model requires a fundamental shift in how you view failure. From failure is bad, hide it, avoid it, to failure is information, examine it, learn from it. When you make this shift, failure becomes less scary. It's not a judgment on your worth. It's feedback on your approach. And feedback is valuable. At Bridgewater, when someone makes a mistake, we don't punish them, unless it's the same mistake repeatedly, which shows they're not learning. We explore it. We ask, what can we learn? How can we systematize this lesson so others benefit? This creates a culture where people are willing to take smart risks because they know mistakes are opportunities to learn, not career-ending events. This is mental model number 4. Pain plus reflection equals progress. Embrace it. The 5th and final mental model is what I call understand the machine. This is a way of seeing the world that has been transformative for me. Everything, economies, markets, organizations, relationships, your own psychology, everything is a machine. A system of cause and effect relationships. If you understand how the machine works, you can predict how it will behave. You can identify where it's breaking down. You can figure out how to fix it or how to optimize it. What is a machine? A machine is a system with inputs, processes, and outputs. Cause and effect. Example, the economy is a machine. When interest rates go down, input, borrowing increases, process, economic activity expands, output. Example, your body is a machine. When you eat poorly and don't exercise, inputs, your health deteriorates, process, you feel tired and sick, outputs. Example, a business is a machine. When you hire talented people and give them clear goals, inputs, they perform well, process, profits increase, outputs. Why this model matters. Most people don't see systems. They see events. Something happens and they react, but they don't understand the underlying mechanics, the causes. When you understand the machine, you move from reactive to proactive. You can see problems before they become crises. You can design better systems. You can intervene at the right leverage points. The economic machine. Let me give you a concrete example. Most people don't understand how the economy works. They see headlines about inflation, unemployment, interest rates, but they don't understand the causal relationships. I've spent decades studying the economic machine. I've identified the key cause and effect relationships. Productivity growth drives long-term prosperity. Debt cycles drive medium-term booms and busts. Central bank policy manages those cycles by adjusting money and credit. Political systems respond to economic pain through policy changes. When you understand these relationships, you can make predictions. If debt levels are unsustainably high, a deleveraging is coming. If central banks are printing money aggressively, inflation will follow. If inequality gets too extreme, political upheaval will result. I'm not clairvoyant. I just understand the machine. I can see where we are in the cycle and project what comes next. Your personal machine. You can apply this to your own life. Think of yourself as a machine. You have inputs, what you consume, food, information, relationships, processes, how you think, how you work, how you make decisions. Outputs, your results, health, wealth, relationships, happiness. If your outputs aren't what you want, don't just try harder. Examine the machine. Are the inputs wrong? Are the processes inefficient? Where is the machine breaking down? Example, you're not achieving your financial goals. Examine the machine. Input, how much are you earning? How much are you saving? Process, how are you investing? What decisions are you making? Output, what returns are you getting? Maybe the problem is input, you're not saving enough. Maybe it's process, you're making poor investment decisions. Identify the bottleneck and fix it. Organizations as machines. I run Bridgewater as a machine. We have inputs, people, capital, information, processes, decision-making systems, investment strategies, management practices, outputs, returns for clients, satisfaction for employees, contributions to society. When outputs aren't what we want, we don't blame people. We examine the machine. Where's the design flawed? What process needs improvement? We systematically diagnose and fix the machine. This leads to continuous improvement. The power of this model. When you see everything as a machine, you become a designer rather than a victim. You're not at the mercy of mysterious forces. You understand causes and effects, and you can intervene intelligently. This mental model also makes you humble because you realize you're just a component in larger machines, the economy, society. You're limited by the design of your own machine, your psychology, your knowledge. Success comes from understanding and working with the machines, not fighting them. How to apply this? Step 1. Identify the machine you're trying to understand. Is it the economy? Your business? Your health? Your relationships? Step 2. Map out the cause and effect relationships. Where are the inputs? What are the processes? Where are the outputs? How do they connect? Step 3. Test your understanding. Make predictions based on your model. Are they accurate? If not, refine your understanding. Step 4. Design or redesign the machine. Once you understand it, you can improve it. Change inputs, optimize processes, measure outputs. This is mental model number 5. Everything is a machine. Understand it, design it, optimize it. All right, let me bring these 5 mental models together and show you how they work as a system. The 5 mental models. Radical truth and radical transparency. See reality clearly. Principles-based operating system. Systematized decisions. Believability-weighted decision-making. Weight opinions by expertise. Pain plus reflection equals progress. Learn from failures. Understand a machine. See systems and cause-effect relationships. How they interconnect. These aren't separate tools. They're an integrated system of thinking. Radical truth is the foundation. If you can't see reality clearly, nothing else works. Principles capture the lessons from seeing reality clearly and systematize them. Believability-weighting ensures you're learning from the right people, accelerating your principle development. Pain plus reflection is the mechanism for continuous improvement. Each failure adds to your principles. Understanding machines is the framework for applying everything. You see the world as systems, apply principles to those systems, weight opinions on how those systems work, and learn from painful feedback when your understanding is incomplete. Together, these 5 models create a learning machine. You systematically get better at seeing reality, making decisions, and achieving goals. Your 30-day challenge. Here's how to start implementing these models. Week 1. Practice radical truth. Pick one area where you might be deceiving yourself: health, finances, relationships. Write down the brutal truth about that area. Share it with someone you trust. Week 2. Start building principles. Keep a decision journal for 1 week. After each significant decision, write what you learned. Extract one principle from each lesson. Week 3. Implement believability weighting. Identify 3 domains important to your life/work. Assess your believability in each honestly. Next time you need advice, seek high believability people in that domain. Week 4. Reflect on pain. Identify your biggest recent failure. Spend 30 minutes writing what went wrong, why, what's the lesson. Extract a principle you'll apply going forward. The transformation. If you internalize these 5 mental models, you won't just think differently about investing or business. You'll think differently about everything. You'll see reality more clearly. You'll make better decisions systematically. You'll learn faster from mistakes. And over time, this compounds into extraordinary results. This is how billionaires think, not about money, but about reality, systems, principles, and continuous improvement. The $1 billion is just an output of thinking this way for decades. You can start today. Subscribe to this channel for more insights on thinking, investing, and navigating complexity. And remember, your mind is your most valuable asset. Upgrade it. Thank you for watching.